You're watching CBS 6 News at 4.
Okay, I was watching this last 5 minutes or so, and this thing has really cranked up. We have a tornado warning now for this storm that is going to be south, just a little bit east of Emporia. So Emporia is right here. Okay, there's Emporia. This is a long way south of the Richmond area, but Emporia, eastward down 58, there's Druryville. What we have here, this is an intense core, a hail core here, producing hail 1.5 inches in diameter, a hook echo right in here, and there is a developing tornado here. Behind me is what we call velocity data. This is the regular rainfall. This is the velocity data, and you can see right in here is a developing tornado. High likelihood that a tornado is developing. This is close to the radar site, relatively close to the radar site. A lot of times we talk about seeing velocity data and seeing rotation on radar, and we may be talking about something up in Hanover County or maybe Goochland County that's a little bit farther away from the radar site, and a lot of times they do have tornadoes on them, but this is much closer, so we're getting a much lower sampling of the atmosphere here. We're looking at the radar out of Wakefield. And so just west of Druryville, again, this is going to be Highway 58 coming out of Emporia. That is a tight circulation just west of Druryville. This storm is moving north. Here's Yale in here. So we've got Yale is in the path of this tornado. Jarrett is on the far western edge of the envelope here. So as the storm moves north, I would go ahead and take your tornado safety precautions if you live in Jarrett, and certainly if you live in Yale. And then here's Sussex up here, and eventually Stony Creek. This is Interstate 95 right here, this red line. There's Stony Creek up there, and this storm is lifting to the north at 20 miles per hour, and that is a tight circulation. You don't see many of them look this textbook with the hook echo in here, indicating drier air being wrapped in an elevated updraft here. So we've got a strong updraft. You have elevated precipitation, so it's a weak echo region that's being indicated there, which makes up this pattern that we call a hook echo. So you don't see hook echoes that well pronounced in this part of the country that often. This does look like a developing tornado with this storm just a little bit to the west of Druryville. So we're going to take this full screen. I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to kind of show you the other storms that we have going on across the area at this time. First off, going to start you off with the severe thunderstorm watch, which includes all areas here in yellow. So if you guys go back over to Max 1, we'll start off with that. The severe thunderstorm watch goes until 9 o'clock tonight. It includes all areas in yellow, and of course we do have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings, and then we have the tornado warning as well, the tornado warning there in the pink shading. So let's go into radar, and I'll kind of walk you through the whole line because there's a lot going on out there, not just this storm with a potential tornado, but there is a lot happening. And as of right now, in the Richmond area, we have one storm that is up toward Ashland. That is not severe, but lightning with that, very heavy rainfall. We have other storms near West Point up to just west of Jamaica. Those storms are not severe, but moving through parts of the Middle Peninsula. The northern edge of these storms, when you get out west, is about Interstate 64 from Powhatan to Goochland, up Highway 522, out west toward Cartersville, and then out toward Lake Monticello. Just south of Charlottesville, some thunderstorms there. None of this activity to a north and west of Richmond is severe at this time. That could all change. We have a pretty intense area of storms stretching right now from around Brandermill down through Pocahontas State Park. So that's going to be around 288 down through Beach Road and Nash Road, all lifting to the north. And then farther south, we get into the severe storms. Colonial Heights to Petersburg, you guys need to get ready as this big severe storm is coming in. From Carson to Dinwiddie, just getting hammered with heavy rainfall right now. A lot of wind and a lot of rainfall and some lightning in there. And then, of course, farther south is the storm that has the potential for a tornado. And again, it's going to be just west of Druryville. Again, what we're looking at here, that's the regular precipitation. There's not a ton of lightning in here, but there is some. And then when you put in the velocity data, that really shows you where that circulation might be. And I'm going to back this up a little bit because it looks like the circulation, again, it was very intense right there. That was when we were in the commercial break, right in here. And you see how it went from not much to a whole lot. So right there, just north of Highway 58, it really cranked up. What we're looking at here, if you're not keyed in exactly what I'm talking about, it's going to be right there. That was the circulation at 429. Since then, it has lifted to the north. It's going to be just west of Druryville, and it has begun to weaken. very, very characteristic of storms in this part of the country. They will cycle, and a lot of times the rotation won't be very long-lived. It will spin up, and then it will spin right back down. We do have a tornado warning, though, in effect for all areas there in that pink polygon, which does include the Yale area. They're in the far northeast corner of that, and then on the western side of that is Jarrett. Jarrett's a little bit outside the warning polygon, but it is close enough. I would take your tornado safety precautions if you live in that area. Going back over to the intensities showing the actual rainfall, let's put the time arrival on this. I'm going to slide this down to the area of greatest concern because we're not really concerned so much with the heavy rainfall and maybe a little bit of hail, but the rotation is a major concern. So let's go down here, and we're going to take this north and put a polygon on this, where the polygon is, and put it right where the circulation is. So going north, again, at about 20 miles per hour, that is going to take it near Harold's Mill at 440, Henry at 445, Hilda at 449, 503 Howells Mill and West Hope at 510. Then Stony Creek, again, it does look like it's going to come very, very close to Stony Creek. That would be at 518, based on a movement to the north at 20 miles per hour. I'm going to tilt that just a little bit. And again, you've got now you've got Carson in there as well. So Stony Creek at 518, Carson at 536, based on a movement to the north at 20 miles per hour. Again, the circulation looks like the last scan has become a little bit more intense. I'll put this into motion for you so you can see this thing actually moving to the north. And again, more storms around this. Emporia has storms. There's no tornado warning for Emporia right now. This is going to be a little bit to the east of there. And again, it's lifting up into Sussex County. So again, Sussex County, western Sussex County in the tornado warning area, and it is lifting up towards Stony Creek and Carson. I'm going to back off on all of this and show you what is coming up into the Richmond area. And at this point, again, we got fairly quiet weather at this time in Richmond. Not much going on, some light rainfall out in the far west end, and also some coming in the 288 corridor, but heavy rainfall now from Hull Street and 288 all the way back down to around Iron Bridge in 288. So that whole corridor there, including Pocahontas State Park, heavy rainfall and lightning. That's all coming in. That's going to pass through most of Richmond, certainly the Fan, the near west end, in fact, the far west end as well, all going to get rain and thunderstorms here. And then once we go down to the south, it gets even heavier. So starting to really close in on Colonial Heights and Petersburg, and it is solid from Petersburg south through Carson and out toward Dinwiddie. This initial storm, though, from Carson to Dinwiddie, that is not the storm that has a tornado warning on it. It is farther south. It's the storm that's getting clean air into it. There are no storms just south of this, so it's getting a good inflow out of the south and east. Those winds coming in, feeding this storm, and the circulation is still there. The tornado warning is going to be in effect until 5 o'clock. So that's going to be another 22 minutes. And initially when this was issued, it was near Green Plain, or 7 miles east of Emporia, and they have it moving northeast at 15, so they slowed it down. So they're saying half-dollar size hail on that, as well as the potential for a tornado. 20 miles per hour has been the general movement of these storms. This storm has been moving a little bit slower, though, and again, it is a storm that is closer to the radar site. That's important because a lot of times we'll see storms that have rotation with them. They may be a long way away, and we'll have to put that qualifier on there that, yes, it shows rotation, but that rotation is 4,000 feet off the ground. That's not really necessarily going to produce a tornado. That's why we have our storm chasers, to be out there to see this and see if it is in contact with the ground and you actually have a tornado. This is much closer to the radar site, though, so when you see something like this that looks intense, as it did about 10 minutes ago, it is a definite red flag that you could have something potentially developing here. So we're not looking at too far away from the radar site. In fact, the height above ground level is only about 1,200 feet here, the center of that storm. So that's much closer to the radar site than what we would typically see with a storm closer to the Richmond area. It is moving in a location though that's going to bring a lot more folks, a much higher density population into the path of this, coming up toward Stony Creek and coming up toward Carson. It continues to lift to the north, and that movement right now is technically 15 miles per hour. There's just an update on the tornado warning, so I'm going to stop the movement of this thing here and get an update on exactly what they're saying in terms of this. Sometimes they will confirm the tornado on the ground, and we'll see what the latest is on this as the update just came out literally just a second ago. So as of right now, as of 4:39, so just a moment ago, capable of producing a tornado located near Jarrett. And that's going to be 10 miles northeast of Emporia. So a tornado near Jarrett moving north at 20. Okay, so they brought it back to that 20 miles per hour. That's what it's been, and so I figured that's what it would be. So 20 miles per hour to the north. Tornado warning continues in effect until 5 o'clock. Tornado located near Jarrett, and that was as of 4:39. And so when you look at the time of arrival, we've got Stony Creek. Let's see here. I'm going to back this thing up a little bit and just make sure that we're talking about the worst part of the storm, get this thing right for you folks that are in the path of this. So we're looking at this area in here, that's the hook echo. So we're going to do this entire area here going north at 20, and that is going to bring it near Carson at 5:33. Stony Creek at 5:15, Carson at 5:33. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning coming out as well. We'll get an update on that one here in just a moment. So here we go. That's going to be for the Richmond area. So we now have a severe thunderstorm warning for Richmond. It includes Midlothian and it includes Short Pump. Includes Bon Air as well. It is that storm that is over the southern part of 288, right over Pocahontas State Park and lifting to the north. So a new severe thunderstorm warning being issued and includes Richmond. That will be until 5:30. So Chesterfield and Henrico County and the city of Richmond. This storm is moving north at 20 as well, so same speed as the storm that has the tornado warning on it. 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail will be possible as the storm continues to track to the north at 20 miles per hour. So that is a new severe thunderstorm warning. We're going to go back and zoom in on that storm, and we'll show you exactly where it is headed and who's going to be impacted by it. But it's coming right in here into the Richmond area. So again, the tornado warning does not include Richmond. That is the south storm. Let's go farther north, and here's the storm coming into Richmond. It is moving north at 20, so put a storm track on it. Again, it's going to be near Brander Mill. That's kind of the western edge of it, and then coming over all the way over to around Bensley is going to be the eastern edge of it. And then going north, do this over again. Again, going north at 20 miles per hour. So that is going to take it to Midlothian at 4:51. The current time is 4:43, so that's just 8 minutes from right now. 5:01, city center of Richmond, Lakeside at 5:11, Laurel at 5:17, Wyndham at 5:28. Elmont 5:32 and Ashland at 5:42. The potential here is for wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour and quarter-size hail. There are also storms you can see there in the upper left-hand part of your screen from Oilville to Goochland that are not severe right now, but just a lot of lightning, a lot of very heavy rainfall. A good time just to stay off the roads right now. Gusty winds could bring tree limbs down or whole trees, just kind of depending on their health, but you just don't want to be driving around in situations like this. I say this knowing that we are coming to the rush hour here in Richmond. So that may not be an option for anybody, for everybody, just to stay put. But to let these storms come through would be a good idea and not go out unless you have to go out here. Over about the next really hour and a half to 2 hours it's going to take for these storms to move through the area. So that's the new severe thunderstorm warning. That's until 5:30. It includes the Richmond area as well as Chesterfield County and Henrico County. Then farther south, we've got a severe storm, Colonial Heights to Petersburg. This storm is more intense here as well. That extends down to Carson and back over toward Dinwiddie. So more severe weather. That is also lifting north. So when you talk about storms training like this, they're basically lined up like a train, one right after the other, you're going to end up getting flooding concerns as well. So maybe not with the first storm, but with the second storm, you're putting rain on a ground that's already gotten a ton of rainfall. It's got to run off somewhere. You're talking about urban areas here that have a lot of concrete, so we're likely going to get flood advisories, maybe a flash flood warning out of this as well. And if you live in an area where you're familiar with your roads, you know which ones flood, you got to stay away from those, because I can see that happening here a little bit later. We're going to have some flooding concerns in the Richmond area. This is the last storm, it's what we call tail end Charlie at the very end, that has the rotation on it. Right now, the rotation does not look as strong. That's a good thing. So it does not look as strong. In fact, it looks fairly muddled at this point. It does not look very good, and that's a good thing. But that is the storm that has the tornado warning on it until 5 o'clock. There it is in motion, and it's like that hook has become kind of wrapped up in it, beginning to occlude. So the good thing with this, hopefully, is that it will just kind of go away and end up being a regular old run-of-the-mill severe storm. But these things cycle, so a lot of times it will look strong, it'll weaken, then it'll come right back and be strong again. You can see a little gust front from all this extending southward from right about Yale, going south down to the North Carolina line. That's what we're looking at right there, is a little gust front that is moving eastward over toward Southampton County. Big storms around Emporia right now up toward Yale. Again, that's the storm that has the tornado warning on it. The hook is going to be south and west of Yale, so the area of concern at this point is going to be right there. That would be where the circulation is at this very moment, 446, and the severe thunderstorm warning goes until 5 o'clock. Now, we have a new severe thunderstorm warning. The tornado warning goes till 5. New severe thunderstorm warning looks like it's going to be for that storm that has the tornado warning on as well. That may be replacing the tornado warning. Can't say for sure, but we have a new warning coming out, and we can look at the very latest on this. And that one has a new warning for Dinwiddie, Prince George, and Sussex. Wind gust up to 60 miles per hour. So there's no mention of hail with this one, but that one is until 5:30 as well. So we have a severe thunderstorm warning for the Richmond area until 5:30, and now one for Dinwiddie, Prince George, and Sussex until 5:30 as well. And then the tornado warning farther south, and that one is until 5 o'clock. That is just for Sussex County at this point. All right, back over to radar and looking at what we have here. These storms continue to track to the north at 20. That's been the movement. It's not very fast. And again, they are training. There's one right after the other moving from south to north. So I do think you're going to have some flooding concerns in Richmond with this lead storm coming through, dumping a good bit of rainfall. It stretches from near Bon Air now out over toward where the Philip Morris plant is, right there on 95. And it is a mess down Hull Street past the Chippenham. You've got very, very heavy rainfall at this point. And then it gets a little lighter once you get out toward 288. But that area closer in town here, Midlothian Turnpike and Chippenham, as well as Hull Street and Chippenham, and Iron Bridge Road as well in Chippenham. Very, very heavy rainfall and the likelihood of some small hail in here. We will check the hail tracker with this and see what kind of hail we've got in here. It hasn't been very large with this lead storm, but with other storms it has been. So we'll look at this. There's some hail in there, so we can check out how big that hail is. Right now it says about 9/10 of an inch in diameter, so about an inch diameter hail. So we're looking a little bit bigger than Nichols for some very isolated locations. That does not mean everybody's getting this. There's a lot of very small hail likely falling from this storm, and it's everywhere there in blue is hail being indicated by the radar. So there is some hail in there as the storm lifts to the north, and you can see where that hail core is gone. It moved up over Beach Road and up over the eastern sides of Pocahontas State Park. Now it's coming right up north. It looks like it'll be crossing the river near Westover Hills Boulevard. So some hail coming into Westover Hills and then up into the Fan and Carytown as well. All right, so let's go back over here and look at the radar of what's going on. A lot of storms stretching from the North Carolina-Virginia line. And the ones of greatest concern right now going to be this storm that is located in Sussex County. It has weakened considerably. In fact, it's only about 10 minutes from this thing expiring, but I think they could pull the plug on it if they wanted to at this point. But with 10 minutes, they're probably just going to let it ride out. But I do think that it's weakened to the point that the tornado threat is pretty much gone at this point. So again, there's a little bit left, not much in the way of a hook with it. A little bit right in here is where it was, but now it's just, there's not much left to it at all. It looks like it's going to be more of just a hail producer and a very heavy rain producer as well as it lifts north. And again, it's up 95. That's a mess right now, and it is heavy rainfall from the North Carolina-Virginia line all the way up. This is 95 right through here, coming all the way up through Stony Creek and Carson, right through the core of this. So if you've got travel plans that are going to take you south down 95, just wait. There's no reason to get out there in this kind of mess right now. And if you know somebody that's coming up 95, have them just pull off somewhere for a little while and wait it out, because this is a mess coming up right up into the Richmond area as well. I mean, it's solid. 95 is solid all the way through the Tri-Cities and now all the way up to the 295 junction and right into Richmond. So again, the rush hour, well, not pleasant on any day, is not going to be very good for the Richmond area here over the next couple of hours with this rain coming on through. We'll put this into motion again, and you can see everything coming in. I do think that you're going to have some flooding concerns as we get these storms coming in, producing a tremendous amount of rainfall. Tornado warning continues until 5 o'clock, so about 9 more minutes with that. That is down around Yale. That's going to be the weakening circulation. There's not much with it at this point, but that is where the circulation is going to be, down in southern sections of Sussex County, lifting to the north, staying but roughly paralleling 95, just staying a little bit over to the east and lifting north, so heading up into Prince George County eventually. As of right now, though, I don't see a lot in the way of rotation with it any longer. It is mainly going to be a wind threat here. We will look at the winds with this, and there have been some strong winds. And you can see around Carson and Stony Creek, this bright area here across about the western half of Prince George County. Those are strong winds coming north. You can see that area there and the bright greens pushing north and east. Those are strong outflow winds from this storm pushing north. Looking at a circulation, I just don't see one with the area and the tornado warning, so that is a very good thing. We'll go back over to the regular reflectivity that you're used to looking at here, and it is heavy rain. Anywhere that you see red, that is very heavy rainfall. And it continues to come on in. Looking at a couple of the cameras behind us here, some of our live pics to see if anything shows any kind of definition in here. I don't see anything at this time, but conditions going downhill for the Tri-Cities. It's raining hard now with lightning, gusty winds, and all of that is lifting north up toward the Richmond area. Again, the tornado warning continues. Now, it's only in Sussex County and southern sections of Sussex County. Going to be down close to Yale and lifting north. I do not see a tornado imminent at this time, though. Despite there being a warning, I tell you that this circulation has come down considerably. It's nowhere near as strong as it was about 20 minutes ago when the warning was issued, and particularly right before the warning was issued is where it was at its strongest. Still some little indication there, a little bit of pattern, but not much, nothing like what it was earlier. It is currently just solid rainfall from Stony Creek through Jarrett down to Emporia, down around Skippers, just a couple miles north of the North Carolina line. And it is heavy rainfall and a lot of lightning and gusty winds. All that is lifting north, just about due north, coming right up into Richmond. And it's not a really quick movement. At 20 miles an hour, it's going to take a little time getting through here. I can tell you that pushing this forward with short-term modeling, it is all gone by 9 o'clock tonight, but between now and then, it's going to be pretty rocky. So if you can stay at home, let the storms blow through, that is always the best course of action. Let's do just a quick whip around here. We've got a couple storms over to our east, Charles City area, northeast of there, just a little bit to the east of 155 over in Charles City County. Also one over New Kent Courthouse. That is not severe. Neither one of those are severe. Some rainfall in far western sections of Middlesex County, and moving close to Middlesex County. It's really right through the middle of King and Queen County. And then we've got a thunderstorm over Ashland, from Ashland over toward Hanover, and then a storm over Goochland that is not severe. In fact, this whole area of storms over here has weakened a good bit over the past 15 minutes. A severe storm right here in Richmond, so coming north right into the Richmond area. The leading edge of the heaviest rainfall now Westover Hills to the Fan. and then back over toward Bon Air. So that is going to be the heaviest rainfall at this point, down toward Huguenot and Robius, down where the great big greenhouse is. Very heavy rainfall there at this time. Not a ton of lightning, but there are some cloud to ground lightning strikes with all of this. I think the main concern is going to be the ponding on the roadways and some gusty winds as this rolls into the area. Right behind this is another storm, though. We get a little bit of a break, so a little lull. Southern sides of 288, and then we get into another slug, a bigger one of moisture. Very heavy rainfall here and lightning all through the Tri-Cities. Colonial Heights, Petersburg, Prince George getting hit hard right now with heavy rainfall, lightning, gusty winds. Severe thunderstorm warning continues for them until 5:30. Another severe storm that has the tornado warning on it as well is going to be down here from Stony Creek to Jarrett. And the Emporia area is not under the warning at this time, but that's a pretty intense core right over Emporia. And again, starting to see a little bit more of that hook shape redeveloping here near Yale. But at this time, I don't see any velocities matching up with that. So we will see if that is a true hook or if that's just a little bit of an anomaly in terms of just the pattern that we're showing. Starting to rain really hard here at the station in the Museum District. That's the leading edge of the severe storm that's coming into Richmond. And you can see that area right here. The main threat with this storm, damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour and quarter-size hail. Looking at the hail at this point, I know that's a major concern. Folks were real interested in knowing how big the hail was going to be. At this point, the hail looks fairly small. I would say about dime size at best. So we'll look at this and see. We've got 0.6 of an inch in diameter. So that's going to be dime size hail. So we're not seeing any large hail, but right along Chippenham and Midlothian Turnpike, from there all the way over to Route 1 is going to be where you're going to have some hail. Some is going to be very, very small hail, but there could be some larger chunks in there as well. And that's going to be lifting right up over Westover Hills and then coming into the Fan. The western edge of that's going to clip, let's see, the Fan and Carytown, and then the western edge of that is likely going to clip the Colonial Place neighborhood, as well as Windsor Farms, and then lift northward over toward Lakeside, Bryan Park as well. And that is based on a movement to the north of 20 miles per hour and this thing holding together. Okay, so looking back at what we have here, we do have one tornado warning in effect at this point. Still a little bit of a hook feature on that. I'll back this up and start it again. Earlier it was much more organized, and you can see it right in here was looking much better, and that's when it likely could have produced a tornado. It was strong like that for about 10 minutes, then it kind of went away. And now it's kind of just sort of morphed into just a big severe storm at this point. So I do think that tornado warning will be allowed to expire. I do not see that being continued as the storm continues to move more into the heart of Sussex County. The rest of this is just a big mess of severe storms stretching from the Richmond area down through the Tri-Cities, right down 95 through Carson, Stony Creek. Again, then Yale to Purdy, pretty wide area there, severe weather all the way down to Emporia. And this whole area is under a severe thunderstorm watch until 9 o'clock tonight. So looking at the watch graphic, everywhere in yellow is a severe thunderstorm watch. And the high-end storms, the worst of storms, obviously a tornado would be possible with some of these, but mainly it's going to be wind gusts to 70 miles per hour and 1.5 inch diameter hail. We've seen some of that hail, we've seen some of those winds, and of course we've had the one tornado warning. And you can see the tornado warning is that small area of Sussex County that will likely be allowed to expire. And then we have warnings for severe storms in Richmond, then south through Petersburg and down a little bit north of Emporia. So taking you through the radar, once again, a lot of activity out there on this Monday afternoon. The worst storm at this point is going to be northern Greensville County back into Sussex County. And then we've got another.
We just want to bring you up to speed. We just got a new tornado warning, first one of the day, for areas in Southampton and Sussex County. This runs till 5 p.m. Hail size running about 1.25 inches. That's a little greater than, say, a George Washington quarter, but it's a little smaller than a ping pong ball size. But you want to show you this full screen because this is a storm that's moving, they say, at 15 miles per hour. So it's moving northeast, and it's about 7 miles east of Emporia, but it's located near Green Plain. So if you know or are familiar with Green Plain, that's where they believe this severe thunderstorm is located, so it's producing strong winds and the possibility of it being capable of producing a tornado. That's why they have put this in the wording. So this is all working its way to the north and east right now until 5 o'clock, about 15 miles an hour. So this is what they're watching very closely. I want to go out and draw a track on this because if this is where this center of the storm is near Green Plain, this would take it to the northeast about 15 miles per hour. So we won't have to go too far, but this would put this at 8, 15, 12. So this would give us some towns, at least in view. That would be Mason in 3 minutes, Harold's Mill in 5 minutes, and perhaps around Gray in 16 minutes from now, and Hilda 23 minutes. So keep in mind, this is not necessarily for sure a tornado, but you don't want to take that chance. And if you're within the sound of my voice and you live in this path of this storm, it is best to get into your safe space now. That's a room in your house that's preferably on the ground floor, away from windows. You don't want to go outside for social media purposes and start taking pictures. It's better to be safe than sorry. So best to be inside when this thing passes. And again, it's moving just 15 miles an hour, but this includes Southampton and Sussex counties until 5 p.m. Hail size about 1.25 inches, and the population is about 1,400 people in the path of this storm. Clearly, you can see there are several things going on the map here. We have the red box, the polygon, that's the tornado warned area, but then we've got lightning, we've got hail, that white area again causing some issues there. So this would suggest that this is where this is. And again, we've had some severe thunderstorm warnings already today, but this is in fact the first tornado warning that we have on the map at this particular time. So that's why we want to make sure that you're taking the necessary precautions till this passes. Again, all things considered, these things can necessarily cause a lot of alarm, and this is probably why many folks who have the News 3 First Warning Weather app are getting notifications at this time. So I just want to give you that perspective. Go back and go back if I can, just to kind of clear things off. Now that we have the time here, I wanted to go back if I could and change the view so we can look at not only that, but look at also some of the winds, look at some of the velocity. There's clearly going to be some hail in here as well. But that is very, very marked well there in the purple areas there. That would be large hail falling in this area not far from Mason. That's one area that we're looking at particularly. Cleaning off this track here. And we'll also go into the shear to see some of the winds that might be affecting these areas. Again, rotation is believed to be here, and that's what the National Weather Service has put out there. They issued a tornado warning. I'm reading from National Weather Service in Wakefield. They believe that this is near Green Plain. The storm is supposed to move through areas west of central Southampton and south central Sussex counties, including the following locations. So if you're in Yale, Adams, Grove, Owens, Gray, Mason, and Hilda. So there's about 6-7 names there. I'll read them again. If you're in the locations around Yale, Adams, Grove, Owens, Gray, Mason, and Hilda, you're under the crosshairs of a tornado warning. So it doesn't necessarily mean a tornado is on the ground, but there is a severe storm certainly rolling through that has the capability. It's shown an uptick in the instability, so that's why I think the Weather Service would rather err on the side of caution, and who would blame them. But again, this is centered, as you can see, it looks like spinning right around Henry at this particular time. That's what we see at this particular moment. Let me go back, if I could, and take a look at the shear tracks and see where things have been over the last few minutes, even over the last 30 minutes. That would probably be helpful just to see 15 minutes to see where things have been. This kind of moves it up 15 minutes, 30 minutes, go back 45. This thing has just kind of spun up in just the last few minutes, and that's why I think the National Weather Service, again, has erred on the side of caution by keeping this in play until 5 o'clock. So we're going to keep an eye on this. I want to also join in the conversation with a microphone of Anthony. Anthony, have you been through Green Plain before? Are you familiar with Southampton, Sussex counties? You've reported here quite a while. I know that you're probably more familiar with this area than I am since I'm the newbie. But this area is obviously getting hit hard with a very strong storm. Yeah,
I've been there a couple of times. You know, obviously a very rural area, but still something where you want to make sure that people have their safe place that they're going to. You know what I mean? Plenty of homes in this area still that hopefully have that indoor room, no windows, right? That's right. Super important to make sure you're getting to right now.
Absolutely.
And just something to keep in mind, you know, as we watch this storm. I mean, this is something that could be incredibly dangerous. So very important to make sure that people are making that plan. I was already on social media trying to let folks know, like, hey, if you need to leave your TV and you can stream us on your phone, WTKR.com/live is a great way to do that. So is the News 3 app. Just want to make sure everybody's staying safe, as safe as they can.
Absolutely, and I think that's key. I think a lot of folks will sometimes get the excitement maybe associated with this tornado warning, and the immediate instinct is to go outside and, hey, I got to get outside and take a photograph of it. I wouldn't suggest that. I would suggest if you're in those towns I've just listed here, Yale, Adams, Grove, you're also in Owens, Gray, Mason, or Hilda, that's really the time you need to be in your safe space for the next 23 minutes. That would be highly advisable. If, again, this is a tornado on the ground, then that's obviously going to cause some debris. It's going to cause some issues, and that's why we want to make sure that you're taking the necessary precautions.
And right over I-95, too.
Yes, and exactly right. You are right on the interstate here. Henry is a few miles, it looks like, to the east of Interstate 95. So those are the reasons why you would definitely want to make sure that you're in the safe spot to let this pass. Go back on this other screen. So yeah, there's definitely some aspect to this in the last 45 minutes that we see just the motion of this coming up. It is moving from south to north. The motion right now is believed to be moving at northeast at 15 miles per hour, which really isn't that fast. If you're moving in a car 15 miles an hour, you feel like you're crawling. That's the situation that might be associated with this type of storm. It's not that fast as far as its movement, but that's one of the aspects we're looking at the moment here with this tornado warning. Let's go back to the radar for a moment. Let's see if we can get this popped up here. Go back to the sweeps. I want to go back and take a look at the correlation coefficient. This is another aspect of a dual pole radar that would give us an idea of what kind of debris, if there is debris in the air, nothing here would jump out at me just right off the gate here, but there are some things that we'll be looking at. If there is, in fact, obviously the hail markers keep going on the screen. So that's been probably a bigger issue right now. If you have vehicles in this path of this storm, you're going to have perhaps some damage. The winds alone, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, could obviously cause some shingles to come off roofs, cause trash cans to go down the street and so forth. And the velocity clearly is also going to be an issue too, as we're looking at some of the tracks here. Let me take some of this to declutter the map, so to speak. But the storm track there you can see right around between Henry. Let me see if I can grab a inquiry here as far as some of the winds, if we're getting much in the way of wind speeds. This is just giving us the tornado warning itself. Again, runs till 5 o'clock for cities like Henry, Southampton, and Sussex County. That's also in our viewing area. So these are things that we want to make sure that you're aware of. Velocity obviously not showing up much here. Again, this is not always going to be in real time. It might be a little bit delayed. But if we go back to the radar, I want to go back and show you. If you're just joining us, we have a severe thunderstorm warning that's now morphed into a tornado warning. And that's been the biggest concern, I think, with this particular storm. Let me go back on this other side. Go back to from the velocity back to, there we go. So now we have a little bit of better sense from the coloring here. The white areas would be the hail. Obviously the red, dark burgundy colors would be the intense rain from the reflectivity. And we also have what's believed to be a possible tornado that's in this particular area. So just to kind of give you a bird's eye view, I thought I would zoom back out. Again, this is not going to impact. This particular tornado warning is not headed toward Norfolk or Virginia Beach or even Franklin. This is all moving to the northeast, and it's doing so very, very slowly. We've got several warnings here. The one on the top just kind of grazes Sussex, but includes Petersburg and Colonial Heights. That's less of a concern for us since that kind of moves into the Richmond market. But for us, we're most concerned what's moving northeast of Emporia, back toward Wayne, back toward Grove, Owens, Gray, Mason, and Hilda. But this Sussex County tornado now till 5 p.m. So they did adjust. They took this out of the Southampton, and it's now just in Sussex County till 5 o'clock with winds that are possibly producing a tornado at this time. The latest update, as they've just now put that into play, is south central Sussex County until 5 o'clock. So we'll keep an eye on this. This obviously is a changeable situation, but it's very important that you take the necessary precautions to get into a safe space. And if you are in the path of this storm, that you stay in your safe space until about 5 o'clock. You can keep track of it very easily using your News 3 First Warning Weather app. That's one of the benefits of having the app, is that you get real-time information. And you know too, Anthony, sometimes the app is all you're looking at. Sometimes because we live on our phone. phones now, and so that can also be a great resource, great advocate to have.
Right, great way to get to the up to the minute information, especially in situations like this where, like you may be, running across the house going into, a center bathroom or something, or getting the kids together, whatever you're going to be doing. It's just nice to have that little device that you can fit in your pocket and you can just have with you for those, minute by minute updates. Because like you were saying, when it comes to these storms and it comes to tornadoes, anything can change in just a minute. We were just dealing with a severe thunderstorm warning not too long ago, and now we're dealing with this hail size potentially over an inch in diameter, which is, quite a bit. That's something heavy that's fallen from the sky there. So just something to keep in mind.
And I just kind of drew another time. These are time estimates. These estimates here, you can see this would be held around 4:44. That's like 2 minutes from now. Should be in the Yale area at 4:57. That would also be in a few minutes from now. So again, better to play it safe than sorry. Sometimes people think these warnings are absolute. There's a suspicion that this storm is capable of producing a tornado, so it's better to be safe than sorry. And of course, your family is important. So if they're needing to be texted to, let them know. 4:58 around Yale, Seventh-day Adventist School, and then 5:02 around the Howells Mill area. So these areas have the potential for a possible tornado. Doesn't mean it will happen, but we want you to play it safe and be very, very careful and cautious for the very reason that we have just a few more minutes left on this particular warning. It's only for Sussex County now. It started off as a Southampton and Sussex County, both counties were associated with it, but it's moved far enough north now that they have removed Southampton. So you're in the clear if you're in Southampton, but these are the hot spots I would imagine between Hilda Yale and the Yale Seventh-day Adventist School area at 4:58 that you could have a possible tornado barreling down on you. So please be extra careful. Anthony, you said some of these areas are rural. They're not.
Oh, yeah. This is an incredibly rural area, right? So this is, homes and properties that are spread out by quite a bit for the most part. Obviously, there's some towns there and stuff like that. But, I was just looking a little bit north of Yale as kind of the Sussex school complex. They've got the high school, they've got the elementary school, all right next to each other there. It looks like Virginia Highway 40 maybe that kind of goes right next to the town of Sussex. So you have these important buildings that have, potentially children inside them. It's a little bit later in the day, but just something to think about. You know what I mean? There are still, it says it right there, 1,400 or so people affected by this tornado warning, which is why we put this out there, because this is potentially dangerous to your life and your property. You know what I mean? Which is, so that's why we talk about this. It's just, is there anything that you can look at that gives an indication of whether or not a tornado is actually forming, or?
Some of the things we would usually see is there would be some signatures. We would see some rotation through like mesoscales. We would see type of winds, but right now, most of what we've seen were the hail markers. That was what was showing up with the storm tracks. That's what's showing up here. We obviously have that little circle here. This is kind of more a mesoscale aloft.
Okay.
So there are other factors with the advent of technology the National Weather Service uses, but they are looking at this particular cell because there was a serious uptick in the last 45 minutes or so. So this again will run till 5 o'clock. Even with the greatest technology, it still doesn't substitute a spotter. A spotter report, somebody who, like a police officer, might drive by and say, yeah, I saw the funnel cloud, it's come down, that type of thing. We will wait to get that intel. I'm also on a chat here with the National Weather Service. They've continued this tornado warning until 5 o'clock. Proper, and we should see this thing expire in that time frame, but we'll hope. Stony Creek, you're just on the north side of this warning, so if this is to be extended, it wouldn't surprise me if you're included in the next polygon that they draw. That would happen at 5 o'clock in 15 minutes if it were to hold together, but it really is a big if. This storm will do one of two things, or three things. Stay the same, it'll intensify, or it will weaken, but if it does weaken, then Stony Creek won't necessarily need to be on guard, but I would certainly advise anyone that's in the Stony Creek area that you might be in the crosshairs of this storm if it comes in your way. You can see obviously the storm tracks, the hail markers keep popping up here, so there's other aspects of this storm besides just the big headline, which obviously is the potential tornadic activity. Come back to the hail, for example. We'll take off this other side here, but you can clearly see just from these markers that are showing up, the ones that seems to be favored is that hail marker. That's one that's producing the arrows and the hail stones, that this is saying, hey, loud and clear, we hear a lot of hail. Now we're seeing a lot more white in this area, which suggests there's probably quite a bit of hail. Hailstones the size of a quarter, maybe up to a ping pong ball size. Some of the reports from the Storm Prediction Center were fearful it could get up as big as golf ball size in inland Virginia today. Don't expect that here because the wording here is generally about 1.25 inches. That's a little more bigger than a George Washington quarter. But just to revamp here, again, we still have a Sussex County tornado warning here. Sussex County is also included in a severe thunderstorm warning that's separate up toward Petersburg and Colonial Heights. But we also have the alarm going off I can hear on the radar here. So this new one has included Stony Creek, but it's not a tornado warning. It's a severe thunderstorm warning. So I hear that going off on the NOAA weather radio in the Weather Center. If we could take this full, I'm going to go ahead and turn that off because it can be a bit distracting, but I want you to know that we do have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning that includes Stony Creek. That runs until 5:15, it would appear, as we're watching this, and I'm hearing my sound of the latest warning coming across the area. So a lot to digest here, Anthony. How active for a Monday?
Yeah, very active for a Monday. You know what I mean? This is something that we've been talking about all day long. Talking to our viewers on our social media channels too right now. But yeah, something we've been watching all day long is the chance for storms today. And we never really, it's hard to know sometimes what it's going to develop into as we move through. But I mean, this is something that you and I were talking about before we came on the air at 4 o'clock, was the severe thunderstorm warning aspect of this that was moving through parts of, I think it was Northampton County in North Carolina, and then moving steadily north.
Right.
You know, and it was enough that we cut into programming before the show. And now we're in here with this tornado warning, and that is generally the time where we start telling folks, hey, you know, time to move into that interior room.
Yep.
Interior room, no windows, right? That's the rule, and at bottom floor too.
And I like having this dialogue with you because here we can see the broad perspective. Because for someone who's just tuning in, say, hey, I hear all this about tornado. Am I included? The answer is no if you're in Virginia Beach. The answer is no if you're in Norfolk. Again, perspective is everything, but this is really confined along this boundary. I talked about it at the top of the newscast. We have a stationary boundary, so a lot of this energy is moving from south to north. It's not quickly moving east to west. So if you're not affected in Duck, which you're not, if you're not affected in Virginia Beach, which you're not, right now it's A-OK. Some of the storms down to the south doesn't mean you can't get some rain tonight, but the severity seems to be focused right now in a few spots. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit tighter in here. See a little bit of echo here in the studio. But you can see that we have one tornado warning for Sussex County till 5. We have Sussex also included in a separate severe thunderstorm warning until 5:30. And the one at the top there that also includes Sussex is till 5:15. So basically this whole area from Stony Creek down toward areas not far from Emporia, dealing with heavy rain, torrential rain, buckets of rain with lightning, and some downpours, and also the threat of hail. And that one concern is that tornado warning. We really want to see that disappear before we can get back to the newscast as we would normally have it, because we want to make sure that your safety is key. That's what we want to make sure, that you are safe, your family is safe. Coming home, it's what, 4:49.
Right.
A lot of people were coming home from work or school. If they had extracurricular activities, school kept them there a little bit later. And if you're in this area on I-95, Anthony kept mentioning it, this is Interstate 95. There's a lot of people on here, and they're driving. They're not necessarily paying attention to the weather. And if they are, they're looking at their phone. They're trying to drive. Not smart. Pull over. But this is a tornado warning. It runs till 5 o'clock, and that's what we want to make sure that people are aware of. Just to give you another track here, if this thing is still moving as they suggest it was, to about 15 miles an hour, just to give you some new towns, and maybe not heavily populated, but some of these towns include Gray at 4:57. It's over here. Hilda at 4:59. The Yale Seventh-day Adventist School still in the crosshairs for that tornado warning. That runs till 5:10, or should be in the neighborhood at 5:10. Even if it holds together, it could be around Yale at 5:12. We're just going to wait and see here in the next 9.5 minutes whether or not this is actually perpetuated and carried on. There were a couple of warnings today that they did cancel a few minutes early. And if that's the case, we will pass that on to you. I see the National Weather Service Wakefield in their chat has just said rotation at 4:50 has weakened with the storm in Sussex. So that's good news right there. We're getting word from Alex Butner from the National Weather Service in Wakefield, says that the storm that was this tornado warning, the rotation is weakening. And so they're saying they're going to let this thing expire as scheduled at 5 o'clock. So we'll just hang tight here for another 8 minutes or so, just so you are within the sound of my voice. You turn on the TV. What's going on? Have a severe thunderstorm warning for a lot of Sussex County, but one particular area is under the tornado warning for another 8.5 minutes. This includes Hilda. This includes Yale. Mentioned some of the other towns that they were concerned about: Grove, Owens, Gray, as well as Mason. So if you're in these small towns, you got family that live in these small towns, it's best to be in your safe space and let this pass because we don't want you to be in the path of obviously, you can't control what's coming your way, but if you are in the path, we want to make sure that you're hunkered down for the next 8 minutes or so. Anthony, you had another thought. I could see it.
Yeah, no, I'm just honestly watching the I-95 corridor path, the fact that it literally is moving south to north like that. I mean, it looks like there's just rain dumping on people who are driving.
Yep.
Like you said, what a time for this to be happening, the commute home.
Yep.
For people who are leaving work, people who were in school today, or if they had some extracurriculars after school, it's just probably not the best time to be driving. Maybe if you have somebody who hasn't left work yet and is working in this area, maybe tell them if they can kind of hang out for a little bit and let this move through.
Right.
Just make sure you're trying to stay as safe as possible. That's just something that I was just noticing, and obviously I'm not the forecaster. I just look at what I see there, and this is what I'm noticing, and. Yeah, it's a small population for that area, very rural, very spread out, but still a couple thousand people affected by the thunderstorm warning. It looks like right now, and
I can almost assure you, would you not agree that if there was a tornado there, we would be sending out a crew?
Absolutely.
We want to see the damage. We want you to be safe. It's better for you to let us at least pass this word on to you, and you get to a safe spot. What I wanted to do was just kind of scrub the time zone here. This is over the last 30 minutes. So if you look at Henry here, notice the reflectivity is off the charts. You've got some heavy rain, probably some hail contamination where you got some hail over Henry, but this is where they thought the possible tornado was occurring. The Storm Prediction Center came out this morning, elevated a great part of this area under a level 2, but now they're really focused on this severe thunderstorm watch. It's now morphed into a tornado warning. So we've seen it all occur just in the last couple of hours in this part. But we're talking about Henry. We're looking at Stony Creek. Stony Creek is under a severe thunderstorm warning. But it's really the tornado warning that's going to last here for about another 6.5 minutes. That's about all that remains on this particular tornado warning. If they decide to pull the plug early, they seem to say that this is going to likely last until 5 o'clock. The latest update, the storm, they say, which prompted the warning, has weakened below severe limits. So it no longer appears to be as damaging as it was maybe a few minutes ago. So what intel should you take away from that? If you're in the path of this storm, give it another 6 minutes because they technically still have it in place. But this could obviously take out power. You might not even have electricity if you're in this path of this storm, and this actually verifies. But they do say that it no longer appears capable of producing a tornado, but they're going to let this thing to expire precisely at the 5 o'clock hour. And we're going to be, of course, putting back into the anchor chair, saying goodbye to Anthony for his help during the 4 o'clock. But of course, we have both Kurt and Jessica in the wings, as they will be joining us here at the top of the newscast, and we'll get back on a regular schedule. But this, again, is the only tornado warning that we've had all day. Just to recap, it was for both Southampton and Sussex County. But they did remove Southampton pretty quickly as it began to lift to the northeast about 15 miles per hour. Anthony noted several times that Interstate 95 is right here. So during an afternoon commute, I'm sure there's a lot of drivers, a lot of motorists on the roads who are going to be dealing with the heavy rains, potentially some damaging wind. Hail has been a big story. I think that's probably the other story, whether or not we got a tornado out of this or not. I think for sure, by far and away, the issues that are probably the bigger issue will be the hail. Take this radar picture off. We'll go back to there we go. So some of this, what we call vertically integrated liquid, some of these dark red areas would suggest that the hailstones are probably very large in size, probably at least an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter was what was estimated. And if we do a little scrubbing of the last few minutes, you can see how some of those colors, they were pink for a while. Take the hail part off. So where you see those pink areas right around Henry, I mean, the hail sizes, I'm sure, were very, very large during this time, about 4:35. And so now it's beginning to show signs of weakening. You can see from just the intensity, the colors are beginning to change. So that's also a big benefit. It's now 4:56, just a couple more minutes left, and we will get back to the newscast at the top of the hour. But I've been talking to Anthony. I also want to say hi to Kurt. Hello, Kurt. Greetings. And Jessica.
Hello, hello.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. So what does this mean? And I know this is kind of tracking away out of our viewing area.
It's moving south to north, yep.
Yeah. But what about later on this evening?
Good question. I think the worst of this is now. Like, we had that window of 2 p.m. to 10. Oftentimes the Storm Prediction Center will issue these severe thunderstorm watches till 9, and then they kind of let those expire at 7 sometimes, or 8. It's really a kind of a wait and see type of situation. I think they'll put that 9 o'clock expiration time thinking it could go as late as 9, but oftentimes when these lose their punch, and I'm looking at these storms here, the tornado warning is just the one aspect. The bigger storm picture, as I zoom back out, shows nothing going on into the Virginia Beach or maybe Elizabeth City area. This is kind of like a big picture, right? So you have all these storms that are moving along the interstate I-95, but nothing really hugging the coast, which is good. And if you put this over the last hour, which was easy to do here, you can see that many of these storms, I think if we're going to loop this, thought we were going to loop that. Okay. So over the last hour, you can see a lot of this energy is moving up the interstate because the boundary is stalled. It might make it as far east as Edenton, but there is the possibility, to your question, Kurt, that we could still get some showers and storms. I don't know if it would necessarily be of the severe limits. A lot of this stuff is weakening.
Because I was looking at, as you were talking, I was looking at Edenton.
Yes.
That's interviewing area.
Yes.
And I was seeing activity there. And so I was wondering what that meant for those folks there and where that system is headed.
Some of that energy is working its way in the direction of Edenton, could easily work its way up toward Moyock, or even get some showers and storms here in Virginia Beach or Norfolk before the night is through. But I think the severe weather threat of it is really going to be concentrated westward. It's more inland to the west. Obviously, we've had some news in Edenton, which I know you're going to be talking on in the next few minutes. But with just 2 minutes left, it looks like with this severe thunderstorm warnings for much of Sussex, only a very small portion of Sussex still under the tornado warning until 5 o'clock. And we've got less than 2 minutes away on that. So as I zoom back in on the area of concern, the flashing red polygon, it's now leaving the Henry area. We talked about this moving northeast at 15 miles per hour. The worst of this looks like it's now lifting away from Henry and lifting at least northeast of Interstate I-95. So it's kind of moving in this direction at this particular time. But we've got Sussex, Sussex, and Sussex on all three warnings. The tornado warning would be the top of the ticket, but clearly some areas outside of our viewing area like Prince George, Dinwiddie, Chesterfield, some of these counties outside of our viewing area are also in the crosshairs of some stronger winds, possibly some hail for those areas if you're commuting today or this evening. So it is now about 4:59. I'm going to toss it back over to the crew here, but we'll keep an eye on this. This is expected to expire in the next 50 seconds or so. I think we're probably going to see this expire as they've already indicated. They're going to let